Good morning, how are you? As you can see, behind the microphone there, Lucy has decided to visit us today. She wasn't feeling good last night. When she doesn't feel good, she makes me get up. And I had to get up and take her out so she could just run around the parking lot chewing grass. It's the second time this happened to her. Used to happen to my other dog, Antonia, too. It's just the strangest phenomenon you ever seen, really. Okay, big thing coming up that we've reached a tipping point. I think I talked about this yesterday. I'm not sure. I'm forgetting what I'm doing nowadays. And it's the coral bleaching that's going on is just destroying the major coral reefs. The Great Barrier Reef is the biggest concern at the moment. And it's a proof of we've gone beyond the tipping point on the first stage of global warming, or in this case, possibly extinction. I don't know what that wrote. I wrote nothing on his mind, but that's okay. Tesla's got a problem with it's self-driving software, I guess it is, or engineering. Anyhow, they're constantly getting investigated for safety violations. And the question that I saw on the internet was, why are they still being allowed to use it? Not the Tesla car itself so much as their self-driving software. Must be something Musk came up with, or one of his little minions, you know what I mean? It's something. There we go. She's scratching now. It's I can't say they could never do it down here. First of all, you'd put about 100,000 people out of work because they drive taxis, and that's going to happen. And what they're doing with this is, like, if they do it in New York State, they take the value of what they call the medallion that the taxi cabs have, and Uber's already caused the value of this thing to depreciate. But it's their life investment. It costs, some cases, some people paid $1 million for those medallions, and that's a lot of money to invest in a, taxi cab that some of them are like 15 years old, but that's the way it works. So that's something to be concerned about. But I don't know what's going on with, excuse me, I told you Lucy kept me up last night. It's a concern, and the person that wrote, why are they still allowed to use it? That's a very good point. And I don't know whether we'll ever get an answer or not, but that's a really, really good point to bring up to somebody, I guess. Explosion in Tennessee, I guess you read about that. 16 people died in that, and they're very gingerly walking through it, trying to find out what exactly happened. The people that could have testified as witnesses to that died in the explosion, so I don't know exactly what they were messing with, but it sounds like I don't think it was TNT. I hope not, because that's pretty outdated, and that's very difficult to manufacture. And that's basically what that is sawdust impregnated with nitroglycerin and some other chemicals. So it's not a cool explosive. It's not very it's dependable, but it's difficult to control. I forget the name. I can't got the name of my TMX is one of, I think it's what it is, one of the others that they use nowadays. They don't use plastic explosives in commercial work too much anymore. But that's, explosives. I don't stay on top of it, that much anymore. I was pretty good with I learned how to use plastic explosives and mines and grenades and stuff like that in a seminar I went to one time for the National Guard, but that's, doesn't do much. Now, here we go. Here goes the weekend. Shooting in a South Carolina bar, I think 6 people dead. 6 people dead in a Mississippi shooting. And there's a couple of more things going on, but you take that with the Tennessee explosion, I think was Saturday. That's a hell of a weekend we had, And there's more. There's more shootings and stabbings and everything. You go through the headlines. It's just ridiculous. I think the only place I didn't see a headline for that was the central United States over the weekend. But that's just stupid, I mean, wow, I don't understand that. How do you go about all that violence all of a sudden? Who do you blame it on, And these states that are having this violence aren't where the street gangs are. Mississippi and South Carolina and Tennessee. These aren't places where you expect to see that kind of mass violence. You expect to see it in like Illinois and New York City and Pennsylvania and some more East Coast like places. I guess South Carolina can be considered East Coast. Alright, next little story. The mega outlets refused to sign the Pentagon's press access rules, new ones. And then the thing that's about that is that Newsmax which is one of the largest news agencies in the world, refused to sign it. And they're a huge mega supporter, I think they're owned by somebody in there. But this is just, stuff you see, Mega's getting up, is not real happy with everything that Trump is doing right now. And I don't know what they can do about it, but they're just crazy, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, Nothing makes sense anymore in the world, I mean, there was a reason people shot each other back in, it was more, it wasn't insane violence. It was violence, but there was more of a situation about it. You pretty much knew what it was, and it was usually criminally related. It wasn't, some mother-in-law contracting to hit on her son-in-law. Like I think that what happened in Florida. She went to jail, life imprisonment. That just makes no sense to me. There are other ways to get rid of them. If you don't want to deal with them, don't deal with them. That had to do something with the way the child was raised, I think. It wasn't a good idea the way they were raised. Oh, let me show you something. I don't know whether you can be able to see this or not in the video, but I'm going to get it as close to you as I can. Alright? And let me see if I hold it this way. It's probably better. That's a ticket stub from a very famous Yankee game. Doesn't tell me who they play. I forgot who they were. Oh, Kansas City. They were playing Kansas City because George Brett's the guy that went nuts in the game. That is a famous game. It's called the Pine Tar game. And the story about that ticket stub is that my friend Billy and myself, we used to go to games on Sundays and we'd scalp tickets. We would buy scalped tickets. And we were there for this particular Sunday, and there were absolutely nobody scalping tickets. I don't know what happened, or there just weren't any tickets available for this game. But we managed to get these tickets, which are Section 11, Box 37D, and the third seat was my ticket. And we got them from a guy who owned the season tickets to this and didn't want to go to the game. And he ran up to the ticket booth to try and sell them. And we were just standing there. We were on our way out, honest to God. We were leaving this to go home and watch the game on TV. We were going to head to a bar or something, which would have been which back in those days when I was drinking would have been a ridiculous idea. But we went and we bought the tickets, and the tickets I think were... well, the whole season cost this guy $675, but we got the tickets for like $3 a piece, And then we went and we got to see the game. It worked out that was like, I think we were something like 6 or 7 rows back from the behind the Yankee dugout, and when Brett got nuts with the pine tar because he's called out because the pine tar was too high on his bat or something like that, and Billy Martin was the manager of the Yankees, and he went absolutely batshit, laughing so hard. He came walking back towards us in the dugout, going laughing at Brett, who was having a complete mental breakdown. He was just going berserk. The fact that he didn't start hitting people still amazes me. That's one of my baseball stories when I used to go to the games. I went for the friendship and check the girls out in the stands, because I got to tell you, New York sports has some of the best looking women in the world sitting in the stands. They're not watching the game either. Then there was I'm not sure if this thing happened in that game or it was another game, but it was in Yankee Stadium, and Dave Winfield hits a ball to deep center, and it hit the flagpole on the way up. This thing would have gone out of the stadium, would have been a record-setting home run if it had continued on, but it was hit so hard it hit the flagpole about 3/4 or more up from the ground. It bounced back to second base. That was one of the greatest, the most powerful, hardest hit balls I've ever seen in the sport of baseball. That was another day I was with my friend Billy, and we used to do stuff like that together. He couldn't find anybody else who wanted to go or would drive, so I went. We went out to Shea Stadium one time too, and that was, I forget who we saw out there. That might have been the game with a long hit. I don't remember. But anyhow, I have those moments to remember. I don't really have any. I went to a lot of Giant games around the same time, around 1979. I had friends that had season tickets, and they used to take a bunch of us with us. It was because I was a bartender, and the guy was a liquor salesman, and he used to take a bunch of us to the game. That we were the ones that did him favors, so we got to go to the games. I was a bartender in the busiest restaurant in the 5th busiest restaurant in the country, in the busiest restaurant bar in New Jersey. So I was an important customer to him. It's okay. It didn't work out great, but it worked out all right. Of course, I was never sober back then either. But I never saw anything memorable in the football games. Not that I can, if I could remember, there would have been something that, I've seen more spectacular things on television in the last few years than I had back then, because offenses were pretty much all the same, so you had the teams that won were the teams with the best defenses, and Lawrence Taylor played for the Giants back then, so. And I used to be very intently watching the line play, and I used to see leg whips and stuff that the referees didn't call, and it's lucky there weren't a lot more injuries back then. Anyhow, that's the sports and the news for the day, folks. Hey, ain't that great? You know? I don't know what else is happening. People are saying Trump's very sick and that Vance is already starting to make a move. And most of the articles I read said that he is such a hated person on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrats, that the only way he'll ever be president is if Trump dies. I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't know how long, if he's so hated, I don't know how long he'll stay in office, because, you know, the Republicans are a bunch of crazy motherfuckers. They're liable to do something strange, you know. All right, listen up. I'm tired of this crap. You guys got to start subscribing to my video, all right? Just to prove to me that you're watching. Make it worth my while to do this, you know? 17 people. Loyal people. But you guys got to get out there, you know? Hit that subscribe button. Give me a shot, you know? Maybe some more stories about my past. Okay. But we'll see what happens. You know, I have some good fishing stories. But anyhow, you guys all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. We'll see. You guys take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful day after you hit the subscribe button.